Bachchan Athwal. Bachchan Athwal is the central figure in one of the United Kingdom's most notorious honor killings. In 1998, Bachchan orchestrated a plot to lure her daughter-in-law, Surjit Athwal, from London to Punjab, India, under the guise of attending family weddings. Surjit had recently expressed a desire to divorce Bachchan's son, Sukhdev, following an affair. In their traditional Sikh household in Hayes, West London, divorce was viewed as an unforgivable stain on family honor. Once in India, Surjit vanished. It was later revealed she had been drugged, strangled, and her body thrown into the Ravi River. For years, Bachchan and Sukhdev maintained a wall of silence, forging letters to suggest Surjit had run away to start a new life. The breakthrough only came in 2004, when Sarabjit Athwal, another daughter-in-law, courageously came forward to describe the planning sessions she had witnessed. In 2007, Bachchan, then 70, became one of the oldest women in British history to be convicted of murder. She was sentenced to life with a minimum of 20 years. Judge Giles Forrester noted that the pair decided family honor was worth more than a young woman's life. Bachchan was released on parole in 2022 due to advanced dementia and declining health. But her case remains a chilling reminder of how far some will go to preserve a perceived reputation. If you're finding these cases as gripping as we are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime history. Tanya Monroe. In 2016, the quiet community of Sandy Springs, Georgia, was rocked by the death of 2-year-old Kobe Shaw. Kobe, who was born with a rare genetic condition that hindered his brain development, was under the care of his grandmother, 45-year-old Tanya Monroe. When paramedics arrived at their apartment, Monroe claimed the toddler had simply stopped breathing. However, the medical examiner found lethal levels of methamphetamine in Kobe's system. The investigation shifted from a medical tragedy to a malice murder case. Monroe fled the state shortly after being questioned, sparking a month-long manhunt by U.S. Marshals. Prosecutors eventually argued that Monroe, a drug user herself, had intentionally administered the narcotic to the child. After a hung jury in 2018, Monroe faced a retrial in 2022. Forensic experts testified that the concentration of meth in the child's body ruled out accidental exposure. Monroe was found guilty of malice murder and cruelty to children. She was sentenced to life in prison, where she remains at Arundel State Prison. Her case highlights the devastating intersection of substance abuse and child neglect. Brar Kaur Dhillon. The case of Brar Kaur Dhillon in Bakersfield, California, is a tragic example of how the fear of cultural shame can lead to unthinkable violence. In 2018, Dhillon's teenage daughter gave birth at home in secret. Fearing that an unwed pregnancy would destroy the family's standing in their Punjabi Sikh community, Dhillon took matters into her own hands. According to court records, Dhillon drowned the newborn in a bathtub just hours after its birth. She then enlisted a nephew to help her bury the infant in a shallow grave in their backyard. The secret was only revealed when the daughter spoke to a social worker, prompting a police raid on the property. Investigators exhumed the tiny body, and an autopsy confirmed the cause of death as drowning. During her 2020 trial, Dhillon admitted, "I killed the baby because I feared my community would speak poorly of my family." She was sentenced to 25 years to life for first-degree murder. The case sparked national conversations about the pressures of honor culture and the lack of resources for vulnerable women in immigrant communities. Do you think cultural pressure is a valid defense in court? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Donna Adelson. The 2014 murder of Florida State University law professor Dan Markel initially looked like a random hit. Markel was shot in his driveway in Tallahassee in broad daylight. However, The investigation eventually led to a high society conspiracy involving his former mother-in-law, Donna Adelson. Donna was allegedly obsessed with moving her grandchildren from Tallahassee to Miami, a move Markell had blocked in court. For nearly a decade, the Adelson family remained under suspicion, as the shooters and intermediaries were slowly arrested. The breakthrough came via wiretaps, where Donna and her son, Charlie, discussed the case in code. Charlie was convicted first, and shortly after, Donna was arrested at Miami International Airport while attempting to board a one-way flight to Vietnam. In 2024, Donna was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation. Prosecutors presented evidence of payments made to the hitmen and recorded calls where Donna expressed panic over the investigation. At age 74, she was sentenced to life without parole. This case remains one of Florida's most infamous examples of familial interference turning deadly. Judy Moran. Judy Moran was the undisputed grandma of crime in Melbourne, Australia. The Moran family had been central figures in the city's bloody gangland wars for decades, with Judy losing 2 husbands and 2 sons to violence. In 2009, she crossed the line from being a mob wife to an active participant when she orchestrated the murder of her brother-in-law, Des Moran. Des and Judy had been feuding over family assets and money. On June 15, 2009, Des was shot while sitting in his car outside a cafe. Surveillance footage and license plate trackers led police directly to Judy, who had been driving the getaway car for the 2 gunmen. A search of her home revealed hidden weapons and blood-stained clothing. Despite her public image as a grieving widow, the jury found her guilty of murder in 2011. She was sentenced to 26 years in prison. Now in her 80s, Judy continues to serve her time at the Dame Phyllis Frost Center, having had multiple appeals for parole denied as recently as 2024. Her conviction marked the end of the Moran dynasty's influence in the Australian underworld. Subscribe now so you never miss a deep dive into the world's most notorious crime families. Lindsay Sandiford. Lindsay Sandiford's life took a drastic turn in 2012 when she was caught at Bali's International Airport with nearly 5 kilograms of cocaine hidden in her luggage. The British grandmother and former legal secretary claimed she was forced to carry the drugs by a trafficking syndicate that had threatened the lives of her children in the UK. Despite her cooperation with Indonesian police, which led to the arrest of several other gang members, the court showed no mercy. In a shock ruling in 2013, Sandiford was sentenced to death by firing squad. The sentence was significantly harsher than what the prosecution had requested. For over a decade, Sandiford has sat on death row in Carabocan prison. Her health has deteriorated, and her legal appeals have all been exhausted. While the British government has provided consular support, they have refused to fund her legal fees, leaving her in a desperate state. As of late 2025, she remains in prison, facing an uncertain date with an Indonesian firing squad. Kerry Ives. The 2021 death of 2-year-old Ethan Ives Griffiths in North Wales uncovered a horrifying campaign of abuse by those meant to protect him. Kerry Ives and her husband Michael had custody of the toddler, but behind closed doors, they viewed him as a burden. When Ethan died of a catastrophic head injury, doctors found over 40 bruises on his body in various stages of healing. The most damning evidence came from the family's own CCTV system. Footage captured Michael assaulting the boy while Kerry watched or participated in the neglect. Text messages between the couple further revealed their shared hostility toward the child. In 2024, both were found guilty of murder at Mould Crown Court. Judge Reese Rollins described their actions as a deliberate campaign of cruelty. Carey was sentenced to life, with a minimum of 14 years. The case led to a major review of social services in Wales, as Ethan had been placed in their care despite warning signs of instability in the home. Is 14 years enough for a crime this heinous? Tell us what you think a fair sentence would be. Theda Rice. In 1996, the Los Angeles community was horrified by the death of 4-year-old Daniel Moalo. Daniel was living with his grandmother, Theda Rice, when he was found unconscious with severe trauma. An autopsy revealed that Daniel had not only been beaten, but had also been bound by his wrists and ankles for extended periods. The investigation revealed a tragic failure of the system. Child welfare workers had visited the home just 24 hours before Daniel's death, but failed to see the signs of abuse. Theda Rice claimed the injuries were accidental, but the forensic evidence of binding and repeated blunt force trauma proved otherwise. Rice was convicted of second-degree murder in 1997 and sentenced to 15 years to life. She served 20 years before being paroled in 2017. Her case remains a landmark example used in training social workers to identify the specific signs of domestic restraint and hidden child abuse within kinship care. Patricia Ann Ricks. Patricia Ann Ricks, a 72-year-old grandmother from Nashville, North Carolina, shocked the nation in 2023 when her 8-year-old granddaughter, Crystal Lane, was found dead in her home. Crystal had been subjected to a brutal, sustained assault. Autopsy reports indicated the use of household items, including a plunger, to inflict internal injuries. Crystal's siblings provided harrowing testimony, describing a household where discipline had devolved into torture. Ricks initially claimed the death was an accident, but the physical evidence of impact trauma was insurmountable. In 2025, Ricks pleaded guilty to first-degree murder to avoid a trial that would have forced the surviving children to testify. She was sentenced to life without parole. Given her age of 74 at the time of sentencing, the ruling ensures she will die in custody. The case highlighted the need for more rigorous screening of elderly guardians who may struggle with the physical and mental demands of raising young children. Don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified every time we post a new investigation. Joyce Harden Garrard. The Marathon Grandma case in Alabama remains one of the most unique and disturbing instances of child abuse. In 2012, 9-year-old Savannah Harden was forced to run for 3 hours as punishment for lying about eating candy. Her grandmother, Joyce Harden Garrard, supervised the discipline, even forcing the girl to carry heavy wood as she ran. Savannah eventually collapsed and died of extreme dehydration and rhabdomyolysis, a condition where the muscles literally break down and poison the blood. Video from a neighbor's surveillance camera showed Garrard yelling at the struggling child, "She's going to run until I tell her to stop." Garrard was convicted of capital murder in 2015 and sentenced to life without parole. However, she only served 9 months of her sentence before dying in prison of natural causes at the age of 54. The case led to the Savannah's Law discussions in Alabama, aimed at more clearly defining cruel and unusual corporal punishment. Martha White. In 2014, a 911 call from an 8-year-old boy in Tallahassee, Florida, led police to a blood-soaked bathroom. Inside, they found 63-year-old Martha White and her 6-year-old grandson, Mason Reinhardt. White had stabbed the boy multiple times while his brother listened through the locked door. Hearing Mason plead, "Please, don't kill me," White, who had custody of the boys, was found to be in an agitated mental state, though she was ruled competent for trial. The brutality of the attack on a child who was entirely dependent on her left the community in shock. To avoid a trial that would traumatize the surviving brother further, White entered a no-contest plea in 2016. She was sentenced to life in prison. During the sentencing, Mason's mother noted that White had destroyed the very legacy she was meant to protect. White remains incarcerated in the Florida state system, serving a sentence that effectively ensures she will never be free again. Patricia Batts. Patricia Batts was the matriarch of a house of horrors in West Yellowstone, Montana. In 2020, her 12-year-old grandson, Alex Hurley, died of blunt force trauma. While Batts didn't deliver the final blow, her son did. She was the mastermind behind a system of systematic torture that was recorded on the family's own cell phones. The video showed Alex being beaten, denied food, and forced to perform grueling physical labor while the adults mocked him. Batts was charged with deliberate homicide for her role in facilitating and encouraging the abuse. She attempted to delete the videos, leading to additional charges of tampering with evidence. In 2023, she pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. Judge Holly Brown remarked that Batts had acted with malevolence toward her own flesh and blood. She is currently serving her sentence at the Montana Women's Prison, while her son also serves a life term for his direct role in the killing.